Hey there everybody, Mazarok here, and today I'm going to be going over the Warrior Covenants. Warriors are in one of the more unique positions in the game right now in terms of balance, especially since 9.0.5, where all of the Covenants are actually pretty good for them. There's no real best in slot, and having kind of stalked the Discord and things like that, everybody has their own opinions on it. Nobody's really wrong. So we're going to go through and we're going to break them down for both Protection, Fury, and Arms. In most cases, Fury and Arms are going to get lumped together as the DPS specs versus Prot, because they both offer two completely different things. But there are some scenarios in which some Covenants are a little bit better for Fury and some Covenants are a little bit better for Arms. But that can be worked out a little bit. We'll be talking that as we go along. Again, if you like any of this type of content, if you value this type of content, please do like this video and subscribe. This channel is growing, and I would like to see you guys grow along with it. And as well, I stream on Twitch every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Links down in the doobly-doo for that below. And, of course, I stream D&D on Sundays. Come by, check that out if you're looking for something just a little bit different. So let's get right into it. So first one we're going to go with in no particular order whatsoever. There's no order or ranking. I'm just going to go and talk about them as I see fit. And that is going to be the Spear of Bastion with the Kyrian Covenant. So with the Kyrian, you get the Spear of Bastion. So you throw a spear at the target location. You have to aim it down, something like, Ravager. It deals quite a bit of attack power, which is arcane. And it has a small 4-second dot. As well, it deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets. But this is the nice thing with it, which is really, really good for Prot, is enemies hit by the target are tethered to the Spear of Bastion, Bastion's location for the duration. So this is an ability that makes it much easier for a Protection Warrior to kite in Mythic Plus. And if you've played any sort of tank in Mythic Plus, you know how important kiting is at higher levels, especially the bleeds off the Gorgons and Halls of Atonement, and just general and that sort of thing. So this makes it a lot more easier for a warrior to kite in that ability while you're still dealing damage. And if you're playing as Fury or Arms, this can really help your tank kite a lot better. So you've all probably seen Hunter use Binding Shot. Have you seen a tank running away, keeping them in place? This is a 1-minute ability that deals a good amount of damage. It's not to be scoffed at in either AoE or single target, although I think it does go a little bit better single target than AoE, although it does not matter. That ability is great, and it also generates 25 rage. So especially in like a rage-starved class as Arms, and to a lesser extent Prot, especially now with the charge weaving, Reprisal is really, really good. So the Spear of Bastion is a solid choice to choose as your main Covenant ability, but you also get the Steward. You get to summon Steward. So you get the Vial of Serenity that you can use to restore health, and you remove all curses, poisons, diseases, and bleed effects. The bleed effects being the key one there, because what happens there is, man, there's so many bleeds that are just, some of them are non-dispellable, some of them are just a real burden on your healers to dispel in both tanks, in both Mythic Plus and Raiding. So this is an amazing ability for M+. I have seen when I DPS for other tanks, they love that Vial of Serenity. They love it. They gobble them up. They can't get enough of it. And it's a really solid choice. So for M+ and Raiding, Kyrian is a really, really good choice all around. And its strong point is with Protection to help kite. And of course the bleed removals from the Vials of Serenity. So if you find that you're playing and you're lacking in those things, perhaps the Kyrian Covenant would be the better option for you. All right, and now we're gonna go Venthyr. Now with the Venthyr Covenant, you get Condemn, which changes your Execute actually. So you lose Execute, but you gain Condemn. So this is a good rage dump. So you condemn a foe to suffer for their sins, causing X amount of damage, shadow damage, instead of your normal physical. and only usable on enemies who are above 80% and below 20%. Now you can spec into this being 35% with the DPS classes of Fury and Arms. So really, really solid option, especially for DPS classes. Fury and Arms, this is a really, really good option, really strong in single target, and I'm sure anybody that's played PvP has faced an Arms warrior in PvP and has just absolutely hated it. Now, there is a small caveat. If your foe survives, you 20% of the rage is refunded. Small, nice, but is what it is. And the rage cost is from 20 to 40. Now, this fantastic option for Arms and Fury right now in 9.0.5. Fantastic option all around. It's really, really strong. And just all around good. There's not much else to be said. If you like dealing a good chunk of damage in single target, this does improve your single target a little bit, but it's not by a considerable amount more in comparison to Kyrian and Necrolords. But if you do wish, I mean, for PvP, it's out of the park. But it is a very solid option, both for rating and Mythic Plus. Now, for Protection Warrior, this is probably, in my opinion, the least valued choice. It does improve your single target like ever slightly, and it does give you, because the primary target is weakened, preventing, now on my account it was 5k at where we are, that they would deal to, like damage that they would deal to you, so it is a damage reduction. It is nice, it is slightly noticeable, but in higher content where you're getting beat up a lot anyway, you're not applying this to mobs, to a bunch of mobs. It's just not worth it. So where you'll see this shine more is in single target. In my opinion, it's the weakest choice for Protection Warriors, but it's not a bad choice. So you have, like, please understand when I say it's not the best, does not mean it is in the dumps garbage. It is not. If you're a Protection Warrior running Venthyr, you're just fine. Not a problem. Have fun with it, work with it. But that's kind of my opinions on where Venthyr stands with Warrior right now. So for DPS, solid. Tanks, good, but not the best of the best choices. And then, of course, you get Door of Shadows as well as your main Venthyr Covenant ability. So it's a nice teleport. It's a nice movement. It's on a it's on a short 1 minute cooldown, sorry. And you can spec into Soulbinds that do certain abilities. Now, it is a little bit unsynergistic with the Reprise of the Legendary for Prot, because you do want to be charging into enemies more than you want to be Door of Shadows for that disorient. But if you do not have a charge up for one reason or another and you need to start the next combat quickly, Door of Shadows with the disorient is a really good option, and there's other ways around it. Now, what I've seen for Soulbinds for Venthyr and kind of the little bit of testing that I've done, Naya seems to be one of the better options. Theo is not bad in places where you can remain static for Fury, so if you're not moving a lot, because the proc does not follow you for the big mastery buff, it just stands still. So if you're moving a lot, you're going to lose a lot of value from that proc, but the little mini lust from Naya, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is really, really nice. And I'm not going to lie, I have zero experience with Draven. The Draven Soulbind. I don't know it that well. I haven't played it on any of my characters. I do not know, so I'm not going to comment. But if you think Draven might be the solid option for you, look it up. There are some smarter people than me on Icy Veins and Wowhead that do this sort of research. All I can do is comment on my experiences with it and where I've had the most amount of success. So that's Venthyr. If you like doing big execute damage, Venthyr's the option. Up next, we're going to cover the newly redesigned Necrolord abilities for the Warrior. Now, one is a general workaround, and the other is a brand new, completely redesigned, which made them a viable choice. So this is the Conqueror's Banner. You brandish the Conqueror's Banner, and you grant 400 mastery and 30% increased movement speed to you and 2 of your nearest allies, preventing movement speed from being reduced below by 100%, and it generates 4 rage per second. So, good rage generator for a class like Arms and Protection. Now, this puts you truly in the role of support tank. For you to maximize this benefit, and I have seen people say, well, this is the new best in slot. Yes and no. And the reason why is for this to shine requires communication and organization. If you're pugging most of your groups, we already know what pug groups can be like. This is going to fall off the ladder really, really quickly. And the reason why is because they're not using their cooldowns around it and things like that. And on top of that, you have to choose your 2 nearest allies. So you have to go intervene an ally, get out of combat, pop your banner, and then go back in. You're not technically out of combat, but it's a good time to kite. But at the same time, while you're kiting, there's a good chance you've already been in combat for a while and cooldowns have already been popped, so you're not getting the full benefit out of this. So it really needs to be used early, and you need to like segregate the 2 that you absolutely want this on away from the other 2. And it is perhaps you want it on a healer and a DPS, because I mean mastery for holy paladins, if there's a big heal coming up, you're going to want that on your holy paladin. There's a lot of different uses for this, and a lot of very creative uses for this that can absolutely shoot this up to the top without any questions asked. But it does require a higher level of communication and organized play that you just do not see in most groups. If you have a pre-made group, it's you, your friends, you run all of the time, and you organize things around cooldowns, Conqueror's Banner and the Necrolords is a fantastic option to go with. Absolutely top notch, and you will see people's DPS go up by, you know, anywhere from, I think it's like 2 to 5% depending on the class. Just for example, there's fire mages, affliction warlocks, hunters all gain a very big boon from this mastery, and any other DPS class that I missed. I think boomkins are another one. There's a lot of DPS specs. I don't have the time to go over all of them. If you do search online, somebody did make a spreadsheet that goes over how much every class gets, so you can kind of work around that. Conqueror's Banner, really, really good, just requires a lot more organization and a lot more prep time kind of deal, and to work with it. And then lastly, Fleshcraft has been buffed, slightly redesigned, but not really. So you form a shield of flesh and bone over 3 seconds that absorbs damage equal to 40% of your health for 2 minutes. Now, as a protection warrior, even as a DPS, but as a protection warrior, this is really, really good. It is a large chunk of your health. 40%, I mean, I level 216, and 40k is, and I'm at 60k. So, I mean, it's almost 25k worth of damage of health, that when you're running into a fight and setting up, means your healer isn't healing you for a lot of that. That is super solid. And while you now this is a little caveat, while you channel, your damage taken is reduced by 20%. It is a good damage reduction, but with threat nowadays, if you're popping this while the fire mage in your group is combustion, or your hunter is doesn't have misdirect up for wild spirits, they're instantly gonna pull aggro off you. Like, it's gonna happen quick. So this is situational, and plus I've used this more on bosses where threat is a lot less of an issue. So on Tyran week, if something's coming up and I don't have a damage reduction, pop that. Works really, really nice. And moving near an enemy's corpse consumes their essence to reduce flesh crash cooldown by 1 second. This really does reduce the cooldown in Mythic Plus by a lot. It's really worth it. And as a DPS, having this up means the healers are having to heal you less. You know, you're taking less damage because most of it is pulsing AoE. This is going to last a lot longer for you. Really, really solid option for both Mythic Plus and raiding, because 40% of your health is no small joke. So that is the Necrolord Covenant and abilities. As for the Soulbinds, little thing, I'm not going to cover the Soulbinds for Kyrian. I do not know them at all. I don't have a Kyrian, and I'm not going to comment on something I've never played, tested, or tried. Just how it's got to work there. I am really sorry. So the Necrolords, I would suggest Emini for Mythic Plus. The haste bonus off things dying around you, really, really good, especially if your run's going good and you're continuously pulling, because haste means a lot for both Fury and Protection Warriors. But funny enough, for Necrolords, Arms would probably be your better DPS spec because of the crit bonus off the Bonesmith Heimer. I can't pronounce his name. Heimer. You do get every 10 crit, you get a big crit bonus. That's probably your better option because the problem, but at the same time, Conqueror's Banner doesn't work that well with Mastery and Arms. So it's a little unsynergistic for DPS. It really, really is. So unless you're going pure prot, Necrolords would be your a good one if you're going pure prot, but not your best option if you're playing a lot of Fury or Arms. Personal opinion, you have every right to tell me I'm wrong, but that's my personal opinion on the matter. Kyrian, both good in Fury and Arms, and then that's how we'll go from there. And for rating, I would probably go with Bonesmith Heimer for protection on Necrolords. So that would be my option there. I'm going to do a separate video on Soulbinds. We'll get to that a little bit later. And last but not least, my personal favorite, the option that I went with, and I did not think I would be going with it when I leveled up my warrior. But that is the Night Fae. I am not a big fan of the Night Fae aesthetic, for anyone that's immediately going to comment that. Saying, I don't like the Night Fae aesthetic, I don't want to be a fairy. Fine, I don't care. But the ability is awesome. I love the ability so much, and that is Ancient Aftershock. So Ancient Aftershock, on a 1.5 minute cooldown, I think it is, a 1.5 minute, which you can bring down to 1.25. It unleashes a wave of anima, dealing 220% attack power of nature damage to 5 enemies, knocking them down for 1.5 seconds. The ground will continue to put a dot for X amount of damage, and it generating 16 rage per enemy for 12 seconds. Every 3 seconds, the targets are briefly knocked down. This ability has saved my butt in Mythic Plus so many times I cannot count. Sometimes there is just not enough kicks in a group. Warriors are not the best at mitigating damage, magic damage. They're really good for one ability every 30 seconds with Spell Reflect, but when you have a pack of 6 that are all casting Necrobolt at you, to instantly kick all of it at once by a well-placed Ancient Aftershock is huge. And the length on this is not small either. It is bigger than your natural Shockwave ability on protection. It is just it's a good ability all around. It does lose value in single target, although if you can keep the boss still, if they take the total amount of nature damage from the dot, it is actually one of the best single target options. But that's the caveat, is they need to be inside the ground ability the entire time, which is not easy to do. This is one of the higher skilled, or, more risk, more reward covenants, I should say. Covenant options. So, but when you get it right, oh my, it feels so good. It feels so good to see 6 enemies all stop casting at once, especially in like Necrotic Wake, and everything just drop, and then your friends can just pound them away for big damage. And on top of that, if you go the Naya route for Mythic Plus, so I'll give you a little tip on the Soulbind, the Naya for Mythic Plus gives you 300 mastery every time you cast your ability, which is why you want to spec with the Soul Conduit to be able to put in there, reduce the cooldown and deal more damage, and it deals a lot of damage. Especially dungeons where I've gotten Pride and immediately gone into bigger packs and mobs, because not all of the Prides time up with the bosses, and you deal an Ancient Aftershock, my overall damage at the end, Ancient Aftershock will be 18, 19, 20% of my damage. It's bonkers. It really is a good ability. I love it to death, and I have honestly, so when the Necrolord Covenant was changed, I went to the PTR, I started testing, I really liked it, but I didn't want to lose my Ancient Aftershock. I didn't want to lose it. So, Ancient Aftershock is the Covenant ability for the Night Fae, and it is really good for protection. It's really good for Fury, and it adds another AoE for Arms. Now, Arms lacks a little bit with the Night Fae Covenant, in my opinion, because the Soulbinds are more mastery-based and more haste-based, which just aren't the prime stats for Arms. So Fury gets a very good bonus. Fury gets another AoE to their toolkit that is already just insane with Signet of Tormented Kings, Blade Storm, and big damage. So if you charge as a Fury, if you charge in, you get enraged, you pop your Ancient Aftershock, you get that mastery bonus, and you Blade Storm, the damage is off the charts. It's so good. And you get that knockdown with the extra kicks. It just works all really, really well together. So a prime pick for protection and fury is the Night Fae Covenant, and is a solid pick for arms. And of course, let's not forget Soul Shape! Soul Shape is an ability that you look at it, you turn into a Vulpin, or whatever soul shape you have choose, because you can choose different animals depending on which ones you've collected, teleporting 15 yards away, aka blink, increasing your movement speed by 50%, and it's every 4 seconds that you may reactivate the blink. You read the ability, it's nice, it works, it's fun. You use the ability and you get used to it, and you wonder how you ever did not have it. I'm not looking forward to a time next expansion where I don't have Soul Shape on my warrior at this point. That's where I'm at, because I use it so much. To get away and kite, especially in the new kiting meta of tanking, and just that I need to get somewhere a little bit quicker, Heroic Leap, between Heroic Leap, Intervening Charge, and Soul Shape, you are an incredibly mobile tank. So, I'm incredibly mobile warrior, I should say. So, and I mean, if you got the Leaper Legendary, you're just at the other end of Wrathy Basin before they can even get to stables. So Soul Shape is not an ability to be underrated, and I think it really is. But anybody that's had Soul Shape on a character long enough and go to another Covenant with another class, hate the fact that they don't no longer have Soul Shape. So that's really it there. For the Soul Binds for Night Fae, now this I have a lot more experience with. Funny enough, I've had the most success. So, I use the Naya tree for protection, Mythic Plus, and I use the, Karain tree for raiding, as well for Fury. Now, I'm not going to comment on arms. I haven't played enough arms to know exactly which one's best, but I'm assuming it's the same for both Fury and arms. Naya I found was better for raiding, Karain was much better for Mythic Plus on Fury. The first strike crit, just getting that big prio on your Blade Storm is huge and deals a lot of damage. So that is where I would go with the Soul Binds. Again, I am going to do I'm going to do another video breaking down the Soul Conduits, because there are a lot of them with the Warrior, and a lot of them are useful in different scenarios, and some of them are pure preference, and some of them are kind of must-haves in certain scenario. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll break that down on probably my next video, where I'll go through the conduits in particular, because depending on what legendary you have equipped, you're going to want different conduits and things like that. So we'll go through that a little bit later. So that is my breakdown of the Covenants for Warrior. I think I was a little bit more enthusiastic about Night Fae. Sorry, it's the one I ended up choosing. But at the end, I need to reiterate, it does not matter which Covenant you choose. You're choosing the right one for your warrior if you're choosing it according to the play style in which you're going to use it. If you're never going to kite away from Spear of Bastion's tether effect, are you really using it right? Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. But find out where your weakness is as a tank, as a DPS, or what you need a little bit of improvement on, and there will be a right Covenant choice for you to mitigate that weakness, because we're all human beings at the end of the day. I'm not a plus 25 M plus runner. I'm not. I would love to work my way to get there, but I mean, it's a long road. It really, really is. So I mean, at the end of the day, we're all still in the same boat, just trying to play as best as we can and get better, but there are no best in slot Covenant choices for Warrior. If you disagree with that statement, leave a comment below. And just remember, maybe it's the best in slot for you and your playstyle, but is it the best in slot for every single warrior out there? Because this isn't as cut and dry as, let's say, a Warlock, who should just literally be going Night Fae. Like, Venthyr is not an option, Kyrion's a blah option, and Necrolord is really good for destruction, but pretty terrible for the rest. So, like, it's Warrior's not like that. They're actually fairly balanced and can all give you a big boon and reward depending on your playstyle, who you're playing with, and how you want to play. So, that is my Covenant breakdown for the Warriors, both DPS and protection. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, I stream on Twitch every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Come on by, check it out. Link down in the doobly-doo. And if you do have, if there's something I missed, let me know in the comments below. I really like making these videos. Is there something else you want to see aside from Soul Conduits? I've already had people asking me for Soul Conduit breakdowns, so I'm going to do that. But aside from that, I hope you guys are enjoying Shadowlands as much as I am, and I hope to see you guys out there. Bye.